Doing well, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you, Bob. I'm just going to take your name.
Hi, how are you? I'm Michelle Roberts. Nice to meet you. I'm calling the company. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Someone to take care of recognizing the
Hi, how are you? Can I do those drinks this week? I know. So, I'll tell you.
Congressman. Yeah, you just let me do my job.
Oh, hey. That's what I did too.
Let me do my job.
Good. This is what I'm doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you help us out by coming to the first two rows? Thank you.
I'll put it on quiet. Send me an email.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even see it there. Once the GMO bill went through, we would have, I would have considered it.
Be a good audience. We don't even have to say welcome. Everybody kind of just started paying attention. This is good. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. How's it going?
Great.
Wonderful. Welcome to the Environmental Justice Roundtable put together by the League of Conservation Voters and particularly here through their state branch, CHISPA. Before we begin, we do want to give a couple of shout outs. We want to say thank you to Cartwright, the school district superintendent, Dr. Chavez, is over there. Thank you, Dr. Chavez, for hosting us. I'd like to say a couple of things.
Yeah, I just want to welcome everybody to the Cartwright School District. It is our pleasure to have you here. This building was designed to be able to have meetings for the public and others, and we're very pleased that you're here. And any time that you need to use our facility, you're more than welcome to do so. So thank you, and welcome to Cartwright.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez.
Thank you.
Also, we want to say hello to Representative Kent Clark from District 24, who's right there. Hello. Alejandro School Board Member, Mr. Adam Falk Lopez, is right there. School Board Member, Mr. John Gomez from right here in Cartwright, he's right there. County Board Supervisor from District 5, Supervisor Steve Gallardo. And all of you, give yourselves a hand too. We meet today to discuss various ways in which we can engage Arizonans, particularly low-income and communities of color, on the benefits of the EPA's Clean Power Plan, and also to form a larger conversation that goes beyond this room, but actively engage community members. To do that, we have a panel of excellent individuals that include from the EPA Air Program Associate Director, Colleen McCon. She has been with the EPA since 1984, has worked in Chicago, San Francisco, and over the last 18 years here in Arizona, so she will have a lot of experience with the new Clean Power Plan. CHISPA Director and Cartwright School Board President, Mr. Pedro Lopez, is here. Give him a round of applause because he's getting a lot of young people involved in the environment issues. So thank you, Pedro, for what you do. We also have Congressman Ruben Gallego from Arizona's 7th District, also a Marine. So thank you for your political service and your service to our country, Congressman. And then the last lady actually needs no introduction. We all know her because she's out there making noise and getting us all engaged, and that is from LULAC, Lilia Guzman. So say hello to Lilia Guzman. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to provide these individuals with a few minutes to provide some opening remarks. And then after, I will ask them a series of questions, and we will hear from all of our panelists. So let's go ahead and begin. Can we start with you, Mr. McCon?
Is this the time, appropriate time to do my presentation? Is that okay? Start with that? So you see on the screen, I'm trying to give you a very brief overview of the Clean Power Plan in 5 minutes or less, which is
easily done.
You know, it's only 1,000 pages. So, yeah, I'll do my best. How's that? Yeah. So I'm going to go through a series of slides, and I will explain them as I go. And we'll start in slide number 1. So the President directed EPA to reduce carbon pollution from power plants as part of his 2013 Climate Action Plan. So he has asked the entire government to put forward efforts in this regard, but our job at EPA was to focus on the power plants, the carbon from power plants, although we are also working on transportation. So I can explain that a little bit later. He underscored the importance of this action for the United States to lead the transition to a clean energy future, both domestically and internationally, and how to address the most serious environmental challenge facing us now, which we believe is climate change. And this slide shows you some of the health risks that come along with increasing temperatures and what can happen in terms of the spread of disease. As you know, in Arizona, heat-related death is something that we're familiar with, and unfortunately it's happened again this year. So increasing temperatures are dangerous to communities, all communities. The Clean Power Plan achieves significant reductions in carbon pollution from power plants while advancing clean energy innovation, development, and deployment. Carbon dioxide is the most impactful greenhouse gas at 82% of the total, and power plants are the largest contributing sector at 31%. As I mentioned, we are also taking steps to reduce carbon emissions from cars and trucks, so that addresses the transportation sector, but today's focus is on the power plants. So this plan puts our country on track to cut carbon pollution from the power sector by 32% from 2005 levels by 2030. That's 870 million tons less pollution. That is a huge number, a huge number. And you give the equivalency in terms of cars taken off the road. So these are some of the benefits, the health benefits from the Clean Power Plan, because in our world, which is protecting the health of the environment and improving the health of people who live in our environment, anytime we can reduce emissions, that's a good thing for everybody. And that's our goal. We're always trying to reduce emissions from any source that we can. And especially for your community, Hispanic and Afro-American children continue to have higher rates of asthma than the national rates, and increased levels of ozone that are caused by climate change and higher temperatures will exacerbate asthma attacks and other respiratory ailments. Climate change is expected to lead to increased air pollution in many high population areas like Phoenix, like the Phoenix metropolitan area. We have over 6 million people here now, contributing to asthma attacks and other respiratory issues. So you can see the savings on the slide of
Is that just for
Clean Power
Arizona?
Plan.
Is that just for Arizona?
Oh no, this is nationally.
It's nationally?
Yes. So Arizona, we haven't broken it down for the state yet, but I'm sure there are.
Okay.
There's probably information that we're developing about how each state, the individual
Right.
benefits.
Oh, it's just the numbers
Yeah.
I've seen in my briefings have the 600 each time. The numbers that I was that was up in the thousands. That's right.
To be,
I would just. I think someone, whoever did the slides, got the national numbers. But I would just.
investments in certain renewable energy and energy efficient projects during 2020 and 2021. And this is crucial. This is optional for the states. So this is one way in which you can make your voice heard. You can ask the state of Arizona to include this kind of program in their plan. That's one thing you can do. If the states choose to participate by making credits and allowances available for these kinds of programs, EPA will match those credits, which means that we will be helping the state of Arizona meet its carbon goal and also encouraging the development of renewable energy and also energy efficiency programs. And the energy efficiency programs are strictly, are really directed at low-income and minority communities. And this is something that we wanted to focus on communities that sometimes don't get a shot at some of the programs that we have. This is designed for communities like yours and other communities as well. So that is something that the Clean Power Plan has incorporated. We're taking some comments on that. There's also a proposed federal plan out, and so the Clean Energy Incentive Program has some issues that are being resolved through comment right now, but the program is spelled out in the final action that we just took. So we will definitely give you information on that. And I have some handouts that I can leave with Pedro that we can make available if that would help. So EPA sets the goal, the state decides how to get there. The way they do their public process is they have stakeholder meetings, they have public meetings, and that's certainly a place where you are welcome to come and give your opinion and ask for what you would like to see in the plan, and there will be a process to do that. And I think communities should be very active in that process and try to tell the state what they would like the state to do.
Sure.
And then here's our Clean Power Plan community page for anyone who wants to check out all the documents that we have available.
Okay.
Did
Thank
I
you.
go over?
No, you're fine. Thank you. Also, I want to recognize the director of the Latino Outreach Program for the League of Conservation Voters, Ms. Jennifer Allen. She's here, so thank you for all the work that you do. All right. So I'd like to move on to Congressman Gallego with your opening remarks, please.
Sure. Well, you said few. There's no such thing when you're talking, but I'll do my best. Yeah, I think for me, this is kind of a culmination of many years. And I'll try to talk as slow as possible, also for the interpreter, because I know it's never easy. We're running so fast. For me, this is something that I've had not just an interest with while in politics, but also a lifelong obsession. It has been clear, at least to me for the last 10 years, that the impact of climate change is going to be disproportionately felt in our poorer communities. And there are reasons for that, and some of them are structural and some of them are just happenstance. But one, to begin with, our poorer communities, which in Arizona tend to be African American, Native American, and Latino. The first step that we have to recognize is that the opportunity for mitigation is really expensive, right? If you are a person of higher income and you start feeling the effects of climate change, you start doing several things to mitigate that. So what would that be? Well, you start moving into a nicer home, you get a better air conditioning system, you move to better areas where it's cleaner air or it's cooler. Now, for many of us, including me growing up, I lived growing up where we could afford to live, right? Where it was close to work, or it was close to school, or close to family. So if there's two things we have to decide, either we change climate change, or somehow we have to help economically our disadvantaged communities to help mitigate the negative effect of climate change. And I think it is actually more economically smart to do that by changing the inputs to climate change, which is what you see with this carbon ruling. And I think it's very important that we all understand that there are many ways to actually skin this cat. The flexibility, I believe, that the administration, it's not a perfect law, but it does give us a lot of flexibility as a state about how to meet our carbon emissions. So we can do a couple of things, and we can do almost all three. We can do all three if we'd like, correct? So you have, one is the option of conservation, helping our low-income families redo, weatherize incentivize their homes. These are just some examples. Helping get more efficient appliances, things of that nature. And you could do that through either regulation, or you can do that through incentivizing the utility companies, incentivizing that. And some of you guys have seen utility companies doing that, where they're asking you to return old refrigerators and they'll give you money. Well, that is an example of that kind of plan. Two, they could join in with other states and exchange essentially, I don't know, we don't call them pollution credits anymore, do we?
You're called credits or allowances, depending on.
Right, credits or allowances, meaning, a state, like 2 states can agree to basically work hand in hand to bring down the emissions of both states, provided that they both, on average, if I'm correct, do bring down the emissions for both states, even though one is disproportionately maybe taking the hit versus the other. I don't necessarily like that plan, to be honest, because at the same time may not provide relief to low-income communities. Now, as an aggregate, in a national sense, it is a good idea, because you bring all the carbon emissions down. And then lastly, it's renewables. And for us as a state, we have a great opportunity and have had when it comes to solar, and it comes to also wind energy further up north. These are all things that are really important to us at the end of the day, because it could both be in effect an attempt for us to fix our healthcare disparities in areas. If you look, I live in South Phoenix, and in South Phoenix, we have the highest rates of asthma in this state, second to Maryville. And a lot of it is because we're up against the mountain, in between highways, and in between a lot of pollutants that are pushing out. It also hurts. The hotter it gets, the longer the particulates that cause these young men and women to have their asthma attacks, they hang in the air. And especially when we have, the inversions? Is it the inversions? And, for those that work with Roosevelt School District, we actually see, the amount of kids missing school, rising every day. And then to couple that with the fact that we have a state government that puts no investment in our poor children, many of them aren't eligible for Medicaid and are not going to be able to take in the asthma inhalers that they need even to have a normal life. So, these are the things that, as a policymaker, worry me, and this is why I look forward, to the implementation of this bill, because I do think that it is, comes from the right place, where it is aimed at particularly helping out the poor, our poor families in all the United States, no matter what color you are, but especially here in Arizona, it does help us Latino families the most. So, and I pass this on because I can talk forever. So I don't know if you want me to.
Thank you, Congressman.
Anything else?
Yeah, we'll go on to Ms. Lida Guzman now. Would you like to give your opening remarks?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm not sure if my voice carries, but I represent LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and we're a national organization of Latinos. We're the nation's largest and oldest organization of Latinos, and we have been talking about the environmental impacts on our Latino communities for years and years, because there is a disparity, and for many of the reasons that have been stated here, and I'm going to slow down because I just remembered that we have an interpreter.
Go easy on the interpreter, Leah.
Perdón.
You've been an interpreter before.
I have, perdón. But the last year, when we first started talking about the Clean Power Plan, LULAC did stand up and take a position, and we were applauding the president for working with the EPA on coming up with this plan. And I think it's important. One of the things that LULAC is going to push very, very heavily as the rollout of this plan gets implemented in the different states is for our members
Gracias, Lidia. Pedro, would you like to give your opening remarks, please?
Thank you, Marcelino. And before I get started, I wanted to take the time to recognize also Senator Martin Quesada, who just walked into the room from LD 29, and also from Tolleson, Devin de Palacio. There you go. Nice to see you back here. So I'll be brief as well. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce more of CHISPA, who we are as a program. CHISPA, a program of the Legal Conservation Voters. We did a poll last year here in Arizona, and we poll Latino families. We have heard year after year, decades now, that the polls show that Latino families care about climate change, Latino families are concerned, and Latino families are ready and willing to take action as well. So we conducted a poll in Arizona, here in Maricopa County specifically, and out of the polling, we noticed, and the results came back, that 88% of Latinos in Arizona are concerned about pollution and climate change. Also, 67% of those Latino families believe that utility companies are the biggest contributors to climate change right now. Throughout the poll as well, we noticed that 90% of those people polled support utility companies using more clean energy, more renewable energy, and 70% of them believe that it will increase jobs in our community. So after the poll, we decided to launch our CHISPA here in Maricopa County, a Latino program for a cleaner future in Arizona, para un futuro más limpio en Arizona. And our focus is to engage Latino families and educate community leaders on what happens behind the light switch, how do we obtain electricity, and how we must call on our elected officials and government officials to clean up the air we breathe in our communities. We have heard from the panelists that Latinos and communities of color usually live within the communities where they have where communities are not meeting federal and state air regulations. For example, here in Maricopa County, in Arizona, 67% of the Latinos do not live where communities meet federal and air standards. And so CHISPA was created. We are focused here in Maricopa County with 4 staff members, full staff, and so our focus is doing grassroots organizing, doing community organizing, engaging those Latino families, our Latino families, to take action. They are understanding more of the energy efficiency and different ways that they can be involved to reduce climate change. Two social media campaigns, Illuminate, that is targeting our audience, our parents, specifically our moms at home who are the heads of the families, their families, their children, their girls, and secondly, Tu Madre Tierra, which is millennials, young people. And so the focus of those two social
very involved in a variety of areas and specialties. What would be your message to our community members and our families? What can they do from your perspective and the areas that you focus on to really support this clean power plant?
So I think the most important thing to remember is that this is going to be done now at the state level, the implementation, right? The idea is that the federal government does not want to come down and have a dictum. We're setting a goal. The state can figure out how to do this. And they can do it. The only problem that is you have in Arizona a very stubborn, bless you. You have a very stubborn, conservative Republican Party and a government that is in utter denial about the future climate change, and I think about this plan. So there's going to have to be a lot of grassroots support that's going to come through the legislature. And the other thing you have to remember, just because we have Latino elected officials, does not mean that they're good on these issues. Time and time again, I don't know who they are, I don't have to mention their names, but time and time again at the legislature, we saw a lot of Latino representatives that backstabbed the community and voted against the community when it came to issues regarding pollution, regarding regulations. So just because and they're opinion and they happen to have the same as we do, or ends in a vowel or ends in a Z, does not mean that they're going to support us in pushing this through. So I think everybody here, when you start running and looking for who to vote, this should be one of the things you ask. This has got to be one of the things you ask about what are you actually going to do about pollution, and are you going to be in support of the president's plan.
Thank you. Pedro, a follow-up question for you. You talk about making sure that Governor Ducey is aware and supports the Clean Power Plan. Can you speak directly to the efforts that CHISPA is doing? So whether it be phone calls, whether it be petitions, but how else can folks become involved so that Governor Ducey becomes fully aware that the community cares about the Clean Power Plan?
Yes, definitely. So as mentioned, as mentioned, we have the petition going on right now on our Facebook page. We have efforts, door-to-door efforts that we have as well. We are going to be planning actions, direct actions in the upcoming months, not only with our local utilities, but also with our target, which is Governor Ducey as well. So we have staff members here, our organizers and promotores as well, that the fastest way that we can take action is to be involved. And so for that, we have many opportunities. If you don't like the heat, we have the phones, the phones to make phone calls. We have office work such as data entry and many other opportunities that people can take. As Congressman mentioned, the legislative session is coming up in January, so we do have meetings with our elected officials as well to ensure that they support this issue and they're on the right side as well. So the easiest way to be involved and take action is to come to our office or after the event, talk to one of our staff members. You also sign in, so we'll be giving you a call as well and follow up on you to ensure that you can be engaged in the process.
And it sounds like it's a full throttle effort in the sense that you're going after millennials, but you're also working with older generations to really push the effort forward.
Definitely, yes. So there's opportunity and room for everyone in our community, for mom and dad and grandpa and hermano, hermana, our cousins, everyone to be engaged. We have different roles, and there's plenty of things that we can do, and so everyone is welcome into our office. And as mentioned, there's many things. For example, our Illuminate campaign, when we have our delegations to our utility companies, those are our utility payers, our customers who are going to be representing their families as paying customers. And then the millennials as well will be voices in our community, our children who are mostly affected. So yes, Illuminate and Pacto Madre Tierra, it has a space for both, for all audiences to be engaged.
Thank you. Lina, would you like to add something?
Yes, also, when plans are being developed and they're being rolled out, there's also an opportunity for the community to become engaged by participating and providing public comments. And when we do this, we can share a lot of our stories, and those stories, believe it or not, make an impact. Now, as we sit here, we talk about communities of color, we talk about Latino families, we can also share a lot of the stories because when we share a lot of things that we have in common, it's a lot of our workers that work in agriculture, that work in landscaping, that work in construction, that are directly affected by the impacts of the environmental pollution. So they can talk about how it's, maybe they started having asthma. Their children are missing school. Those stories, believe it or not, are the ones that are going to make an impact. And this is what we need from the community. Participen. We need your participation in this public comment because this is how we're going to make and we're going to raise that voice. We're going to make that impact.
Lydia, let me follow up on that. It sounds like you're bringing a cultural aspect to the Clean Power Plan. Can you talk about that and how other organizations or individuals can understand the cultural aspect of the Clean Power Plan and how it affects their communities?
You bet. And let me just share a story. One of the things when I mentioned earlier that we have been talking about this years ago, I remember talking to Supervisor Gallardo years ago when he wasn't a supervisor then, but we were talking about a brick company in South Phoenix and how this brick company on 19th Avenue was emitting pollutants in the air and the direct impact that this was causing on the kids around there. And it was amazing because one of the families that we were talking to then was saying that the pharmacist was new. There was a new pharmacist in that area and he could not believe that the pharmacy that he was transferred to had so many prescriptions for the asthma. And so he thought, well, I knew that this was a high Latino population, but I didn't know that this connected. Cultural impact, you bet. ¿Por qué? Because, these plants are in our communities. And why? Porque no levantamos la voz. We need to raise our voices. This is the cultural impact.
Gracias. Colleen, how does the Clean Power Plan address environmental justice concerns?
Well, I think as I mentioned, the Clean Energy Incentive Program is one way we try to address the fact that low-income and minority communities often bear disproportionate environmental health effects from pollution. And so in the case of this rule, we wanted to make sure that there was some kind of incentive in here for people who look for opportunities to do more to protect low-income and minority communities and work with them in terms of what can we do together to make a difference in terms of addressing climate change. And so that was one of our attempts, and we'll see how well it works in terms of, the state puts it in its plan. It'd be nice if it showed up in the plan. That would be the first step. And to build on some of the remarks from the other panelists, I think one of the important things is to show up during the process and participate in the process as the state starts developing the plan. Try to be there, maybe divide and conquer and try to be there to make sure that a meeting doesn't go by without your opinion being heard. I can't tell you how much difference that makes. I've been working on the power plants on the Navajo for several years, and it's amazing what the tribal environmental organizations have done in terms of just making sure we hear their opinion every time we have a meeting up there or a hearing. It's just amazing. They've been very effective. So people will listen, and I think that's the operative thing here is to participate as much as you possibly can and to keep asking for what you want.
So repeat that. I think that's important. Say that again.
Show up at the meetings and ask for what you want, and be blunt about it. And then some of our rules and this plan might be a bit technical. I think so. If you don't know how to best approach the comments that you want to make, there are people out there like me and other people to help you understand how to make the comment you want to make. So we can kind of help you translate it into a way that people will hear it and in a way it fits the plan that they're developing. So don't be afraid to ask for help. I think people are out there and they want to help you both understand the best way to approach the issue you would like to highlight and then how to express it in the best way to make it heard on the other side. Because as you know, it's all about, people can talk past each other sometimes, and I think we want to make sure that the people you're trying to give the message to are hearing it, and hearing it in a way that they can actually use it effectively. So But I think there are many people that want to help you do that.
Thank you. You walk outside. ¿Tiene una pregunta, Ernest?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
Should I grab the microphone? Yeah. Thank you. Like to steer the conversation a little bit in different direction. I completely, support the plan. We need to clean our power plants, especially coal power plants. But we also need to eliminate them at some point. France went off coal in 2008, and I think we have the ability to do this. But also we need to increase, renewables altogether and so on and so forth. But between 2008 and 2010, I did a number of studies here in Maribel with very low-income families that were, I checked their records and they were very, very efficient, and I just couldn't get it, How is it possible these families, their homes are more efficient than some of the most efficient houses that we have ever designed? And I came to interview them. And to my surprise, many of these houses, they said, one family, we unplug everything in the morning before we go out. We turn off absolutely everything. And at night, we turn on the AC at night, which was a cooler actually, just for a few hours. And many of these families had similar stories. The problem that we have with this type of lifestyle is that many of these kids are exposed to extreme heat or extreme cold. And this kind of exposure, brings their inability to learn at school. They have less ability to sleep well, they stressed out, they are overweight, and so on and so forth. So that tampers with our economic opportunities and our ability to grow in a society altogether. So when we're talking about clean power, we definitely need to support it, but I'm concerned that historically speaking, power companies take advantage of these mandates or these regulations to increase prices on energy. Now, when we increase price on energy, they are taxing me and you and et cetera, but low-income people, the taxing is much greater. And we don't have any regulations that talks about, energy access that is more equal, amongst all levels of these families. So I'm very concerned that this will happen. So I will encourage Congress and EPA to take a look at that and work with the state to regulate a little bit, a pricing scale of some kind.
We'll have to make you part of the panelists.
Just for some comments, I mean, the argument that this will increase energy costs, I think is not it's valid but not entirely valid, and here's why. One, we're spreading out the changes over many years, so that way the cost can be both incremental, as well as some of these coal power plants are actually due at some point to either be fixed or shut down because the economics of that particular power plant are no longer working. So for a lot of these power plants, a lot of them, they're gonna have to get changed anyway. So you might as well do it, and you might as well do it early. Second, it's not like these changes can't be absorbed in other manners. Now, will there be utility rate increases? There may be, and I think that's why we have to be very guarded and on watch when it comes to our corporation commission, which helps set a lot of these up. But it also, I'd like to remind people that there are many tax credits that the federal government do offer to help people bring new renewable technology, and not people, but companies. So there's that, as well as your general tax policy says if you're a company and you do any kind of expenditure, you get to deduct that. So there's a lot of ways that this happen. I think the last thing I want to be done, at least within the arguments when it comes to this regulation, is that we must not do this for the sake of the poor communities because we're going to raise the rates on them. When in fact, I believe that over the long term, this will end up saving rates for our poor communities, because again, like you said, how you unplug and plug everything out. I grew up in a house, well, an apartment actually. My three sisters, myself, and my mom. It was very efficient. The reason it was very efficient is because we had 5 people in what should have been a two-person apartment. And you'll also see in many of our Latino homes, many big families in one house, and that creates efficiencies right there. As well, when you're poor, and my family was very poor, we looked for every corner to cut. In addition, and this is me, grew up in Chicago, so we were mostly worried about heating, keeping ourselves starting the thermostat at a different time and sleeping with a lot of blankets on. But what happens when you have climate shock, when things move so fast, they may not have the opportunity to mitigate it. And that's where I got to.
I have to think of different dimensions.
Let me just reply, but I also know what other people are saying that is going to try to latch on to the same idea.
And also that we have participation is also to come together to hold not only our elected accountable, but also to start elected officials to hold these accountable. Those the pollutants in areas. We need to stand up to them and say, you know, in the legislature, in Congress, you know, we stand behind you and
We want to be respectful of everybody's time. We did say we were going to continue from 2 to 3, so we've got a few more minutes. In your closing remarks, I'd like to give you a thought. Solar energy and renewable energy and different utility companies here that have the ability to promote those services. What else can we do as a community to increase renewable and solar energy and ways to support the clean power plan and meet that goal by 2030? So, Colleen, start with you.
I think the programs that we're talking about are focused at energy efficiency, which everyone is discussing. I mean, ways that you can use less. And looking programs, and the programs aren't known yet. These programs can
League of Conservation Voters and the Cartwright School, as well as the board members and staff that facilitate this. This is really important, one of many times that we have to do this and start talking about environmental justice within the Latino community. I think the thing that we have to focus on, just kind of my party words, is that this is the opportunity that states rarely get, where they have so much leeway to bring creativity to solve a problem. I mean, we're talking about how do you cut carbon emissions. The cheapest way to do it, in my opinion, is between now and 2030, how much bigger is Arizona going to grow? Right? We're going to have millions and millions more people here. But right now, the state legislature does not allow any type of conservation regulations when it comes to home building. We're going to build millions and millions of homes without any type of regulations to try to bring down their waste, whether it's energy waste, heat waste, whatever it is. And if you want to figure out a way to do this and actually create economies of scale, you do that in the per unit cost of all these houses that are so similar, right? You've seen all these houses, they all look alike, right? This is Arizona. We will have communities that are of 30 to 40,000 homes, and the difference will be dark beige or beige. But when we have opportunity like that, and you could create one really energy efficient home, imagine what you can do to create 40,000 energy efficient homes, right? So there's a lot of creative ways that we can do this, in addition to large scale solar, rooftop solar, community distributed solar. I mean, you just have a lot of ways. So we need to demand, first of all, that our politicians not just abide by the law, but for God's sakes, have some freaking creativity here. A creativity that will not only, help us meet the regulations, but probably produce a lot of really good jobs for Arizona, good paying jobs, something that we desperately need. So that's what I would advocate, especially for the policymakers at the local level. Right now, I'll give you a good example. When I was in the State House, even though it was almost a negligible cost, just because they were anti the idea of conservation, some of the guys that were with me, and gals, I apologize, will recognize this. We had a mandate as a state that said anytime somebody bought a new pump, you had to use an energy efficiency pump for that. You didn't have to retrofit your old pump. You could, if you had an old pump, you could keep it, right? But if you got a new pool, you had to have a new energy efficient pump. It was cost negligible, and the state specifically went and said you cannot regulate the energy efficiency of pool pumps, right? How does that make any sense? Right? Now multiply that pool pump into the times $100,000, into the hundred thousands, and then multiply that against 20 years, and now imagine the kind of carbon savings we potentially could have in energy savings, right? That's the kind of creativity that our state house needs to be showing. That's the kind of creativity that our governor needs to show, not just this one, but the next one also. So,
Thank you, Congressman. Lydia?
It's no secret that the Latino vote is going to be a very decisive vote in the 2016 election. And as we talk to the candidates and we hear from the candidates, it's important that we push the candidates on this issue. We know that immigration, just like I mentioned before, is a top issue for a lot of Latino voters, just like education, just like jobs, just like a lot of other things. But one of the things that we also must do is educate ourselves on environmental issues. We need to not only educate ourselves on environmental issues, but push those candidates to answer questions to us. If someone says, well, I don't care about immigration because, I'm a citizen, toda mi familia ya está regada, everybody is a citizen, it doesn't affect us at all. But I bet you that the pollutants in the air affects them. I'll bet you that the missing work because of their asthma or their kids not being able to play in the soccer league affects them. So environmental problems affect everybody. It doesn't matter. And so this is one of the things that not only we need to talk to the candidates, but we also need to educate ourselves and all of the voters around us about this. That's one of the things that we must do.
Gracias. Thank you. All right. One last thing, Ben?
I know that we have mentioned Governor Ducey as one of our targets to put pressure on, but another body of people who is also important and mentioned by a congressman is the Corporation Commission. Yes. The Arizona Corporation Commission is the entity in the state that regulates utility companies, and so it's very important for us to also show up to the meetings, speak on public comment, make phone calls, and most importantly, educate our community that that body of electeds, which is 5 people, are the ones who are supposed to be regulating the utility companies. We know that's not always the case, but again, it goes back to our message. We have to be vocal, we have to be active, and we have to be voting as well. So I just wanted to make sure that message is out there. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you all so much for being a part of the environmental justice panel. These individuals will stick around for a few minutes, so in case you have any questions, please feel free to come up to them and speak to them. And my parting words are to take action. Take action. You've heard lots of different ways in which you can become active and really help out this plan meet its goals. So take action. Gracias. Pase buen día. Adiós. Very nice meeting
Just a little bit, just a little bit. We're all the same. Let's do it. Hola. I was like, I don't know. I get Okay, no worries, I'm just going to do an interview
And then, yeah,